Welcome back to another episode of Intentionally Disturbing. Today, I have the honor of talking with Kara Robinson Chamberlain. Now, our interview is fun, and we talk a lot about how to, be healthy, get through PTSD, sexual assault, how to protect our children. But what we don't talk about is what happened to Kara when she was 15. And so I want to give you a brief introduction to that. So when Kara was 15, she was watering her friend's plants outside. She had just had a slumber party at her best friend's house, and her friend went inside briefly to take a shower. In that short moment of time, a man came up to Kara and asked if her parents wanted some magazines. So he was testing her. And she said, a young 15-year-old, she's unaware. It's 2002. She said, my parents aren't here. I'm at my friend's house, and her parents aren't here either. He got a little closer to her. He put a gun up to her neck, and he said, get in my car. He walked her into the car, in which he had a plastic Tupperware bin. He said, get into the bin. And he closed the bin. He drove her for a while. She was aware it was maybe streets and highways, different speeds. He brought her into an apartment where he repeatedly raped her and held her captive for 18 hours. When he wanted to sleep, he tied her ankles and her wrists to the bed. She was amazing through this. She spent the time while being raped, while being held captive, while being drugged on anxiolytics. She spent the time memorizing the room, memorizing the serial number on the plastic tub she had been in, memorizing, any products that he used, that there was a brush with red hair on it. So maybe there was a wife. She analyzed everything, and she stayed aware. And there was a moment where she fell asleep. She woke up. He was still asleep. She was able to slip her hands out of one of the cuffs. She got a carabiner off her ankle, and she ran. And she ran like hell. She found two men that took her to the police station. And in that, she was able to eventually find this rapist who turned out to be a serial killer and a serial rapist. As the police honed in on him, as the police were about to grab him, he shot his head off. And now we welcome Kara. Oh, hey. You're here.
Did you see the t-shirt that I got?
No.
So people on the internet, as people on the internet are known to do, have been making some heinous comments lately. And they're literally calling me fat. Very much not.
But why are they coming at you? They're coming at you. Why?
Who knows? Because they're trolls on the internet. And so, now I'm getting hyped. We're focused on it. So they are leaving comments on my Run Like a Girl trend saying, you look like you could probably use a little more running. So I got a shirt that says too fat to kidnap.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just going to wear this. This is my personality in a t-shirt. And someone was like, you could probably put again on it. And I was like, yeah, that would make it even better.
So, did you, are you selling it? Did you make it?
No, it's from Amazon. It's like drop shipping from Amazon. But I was like,
somebody already made a shirt like that?
Oh, there's multiple of them. Like my friend and my chiropractor, I was telling him about it. And he was like, you should probably get this shirt. And I went and looked it up and bought it that same day. I was like, oh, this is exactly what I need because.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. You think you can hurt my feelings? No, you cannot hurt my feelings. I will just make a joke out of it.
It's, the internet can be so horrible. It's so hard to weigh how wonderful it can be, but then, especially on TikTok, how people, it's a nightmare.
It's the wild, wild west in some ways. I think. And I think people forget very often that there's an actual person behind there. And some people just exist to troll, I think, right? And
yes,
for me, my personality is if you're going to come at me and you're going to make those comments, you're doing that. This happens to me multiple times. Look at this.
Oh, this is like a new thing.
It happens every single time, accidentally, because I talk with my hands. So, but my thing is, if you're going to come at me with those comments and you're going to spew hate at me, then you're doing that to other people who maybe can't handle. It doesn't affect me, but you're doing that to other people. And so I challenged people, and I clap back at them, and I will forever do that because I feel like it's my duty. Like, so
Yeah.
it's just makes me laugh at this point. I'm like, this person called me fat. Like, what is wrong with people? Like,
It sounds like you have like this genuine innate fight in you. Like your personality, I would love to do like a whole psychological assessment on your mind because I bet it is just so high performing.
is it trauma, or is it survival mechanism? Is it trauma, or is it autism? Like, who knows? I think it's probably a little bit of all of the things.
Well, so of course I like watched, your story and everything because it's incredible. But how you describe what you did, you describe it as your trauma response.
Yeah.
When I was like, wait, the trauma comes after for me.
Right.
In the moment, you are like a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, that I think that so many people hear it and they think, I could never. But one of the things that was very interesting to me is I was on Marcus Luttrell's podcast. And so if people don't know who he is, he's the lone survivor. He has a crazy, amazing story of just being a badass. Like, let's call it what it is. And I told my story and he was like, I just don't even understand. Like, I don't think I could do that. I'm like, that's what people think when they hear your story too. And I think that's what we all experience is we don't think that we're capable of those things, but human beings were created to survive. Like, we have a fight or flight. We have a survival mechanism that is within us that is going to pick and choose what it thinks is the most likely scenario for survival. And it's going to use those mechanisms that we have within us to get us to survive. And so it's like, I got really lucky that I picked some good ones, I guess.
It's not luck. It's not luck. I mean, coming from a psychologist, like a lot of people suck. A lot of people are put in situations and they really do freeze and they don't have forward thought. They're frozen in the moment.
Right.
And they are victims and
stay that way.
Right. And your story, it was like you were empowered during it, after it, and you continued to do it for the world.
Yeah.
It's a uniqueness.
I will accept that. I will accept it. I think very often, like, it wasn't necessarily a conscious decision for me, I guess. It was kind of like, no, this is the option. This is what we do. And I think I would classify my childhood before I was kidnapped in 2002 as a chaotic childhood. I think I very realistically I've not been undiagnosed, but pretty sure, very likely have CPTSD. And just due to, I think a lot of people that are, my generation probably have similar upbringings where like our parents just weren't taught how to deal with their stuff. They weren't emotionally or even physically available because they were dealing with a lot of their own crap. And so I think that the coping mechanisms that I learned early on in life served me very, very well when I was kidnapped. So I learned dissociation far before June of 2002. That was a coping mechanism that I learned. I was always 13 going on 30. 7 going on 30. And as anyone who is working in these fields can attest to, generally those children that are tiny little adults have to be tiny little adults. They are parentified. And so I think that I had I'm an only child. And so I think there was a lot of independence, dissociation, parentification, and just other things that I had to do to get through life that served me very well when I was put in a life or death situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You use so many words where people are probably like, wait.
Let's back it up. Let's go ahead.
I mean, So complex PTSD. I love that you're using that. I hate that it's not in the diagnostic manual. I think it needs to be. So, PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, one event where where you fear the loss of your life, someone loses their life, or there's an egregious violent sexual act on you. That's criteria one for PTSD. It can happen once. You get the diagnosis, you have intrusive thoughts, flashbacks, you avoid situations, avoid memories, nightmares. All the stuff we hear about in the movies is pretty accurate.
Mhm.
But complex PTSD is when you have ongoing traumas and you don't have the ability to ever get to a healing point of one. So they start to layer on each other. And it, for me, looks like a befuddled, bowl of spaghetti we have to sort through in psychology.
Yeah. And one of the
Yeah.
things that was very helpful for me is I don't feel like I necessarily had a series of macro gigantic traumas in my childhood. I feel like it was more it was definitely micro traumas, like tiny little things, but it was more of a lack of stability and emotional support around just life, like the life stuff that we have to deal with. I look at my kids, I have an 11-year-old, an 8.5-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and I look at them and see how many things they're working through every single day, whether it be societally with their friends, whether it be here in our home, pets passing, different things that are just normal life experiences, and how we support them and help them gain emotional intelligence and help them work through their feelings and name their feelings and process them. And those are things that many people in my generation did not get. And so you look at how that forms your attachment, and you look at how that makes you not a securely attached person, and you learn no one's coming to save you. No one's coming to
Yeah.
help you work through your feelings. And then you layer on difficult things that happen in stressful situations. That my house was a little more chaotic than I would have liked it to have been, obviously, but you just keep layering these things on and nothing ever gets dealt with. And so it creates this situation where I think a lot of people view it as, but my childhood wasn't bad. It wasn't. Why do I feel this way? Why do I have no memories of my childhood? Why is my childhood just this blank book? Like, I don't know. And it's because there just was not emotional memory encoding during that time. It's very bizarre, but I think it's weird to say it was for the best, right? But if that had not happened,
Right.
would I have
Isn't that wild to say? Like my chaotic, traumatic childhood allowed me to persevere through repeated raping and kidnapping by a serial killer
right.
who blew his head off, and then you helped bring closure to other families.
Yeah, and even to take it a step further, like that, people are like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry that that happened to you. I'm so sorry that you were kidnapped." And I'm like, "But I'm not, because in my mind, saying I'm sorry that happened means that I would be not thankful and cognizant of how that got me where I am today. I love my life. I have a beautiful life. I have beautiful children. I have an amazing husband. I'm in a wonderful community. I do a job that I am very, very passionate about and I love. And none of those things would have happened if I had not been kidnapped.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so it's like I think that's something that I always try to keep in perspective, and I try to help people understand whenever they're going through their traumas. It's like, I'm not going to tell you everything happens for a reason, but I'm going to tell you, if you're very intentional, you're very lucky, you're supported, that sometimes you can find purpose in your pain, and that's what I'm doing here.
I love that. Purpose in your pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. What do you do? Do you have PTSD symptoms still from it? Or do you feel like you've kind of reached a level of, like, this is so hopeful for people to hear, but
Yeah.
a level of recovery? Like, I don't know if we'd put it on a percentage scale. Like, when shit was really bad, it was at 100%, and,
Yeah.
you're progressing away from it.
I actually love that you asked this question, because it's something that I get asked a lot. Do you feel like you have PTSD? In the traditional, and especially like if we're looking back at 2002. If we're looking at the diagnostic standards for PTSD, I would say no, I don't have PTSD. I don't have flashbacks. I don't feel like I ever did, because it's outside. A month, 2 months? What is the window there?
Well, it kind of starts within a month, but 6 months says we have a delayed onset. But
Right.
I think it's all bullshit. We don't fit into you don't fit into a book.
I would say by those standards, like, I had some, like some anxiety attacks out in public. I had some flashbacks and some nightmares, but they were all fairly quickly after. So as far as like a prolonged, like actually diagnosable PTSD kind of thing, I would say no. But now, as we're seeing kind of the knowledge around PTSD change, and we're looking at some of the newer diagnostic things that are working in, like body flashbacks. That was not something that anyone had any knowledge of in 2002. I have to acknowledge, like, 2002, the response to my trauma was, oh my God, you have to get therapy. And I was like, but talk there, like EMDR wasn't really a thing. And I was like, I can talk about it. I don't need to go sit with a stranger and talk about it. Right. So very different then than it is now. But when we talk about like memory loss, I don't remember anything. Like, so we look at that.
Wait, tell me about the body part, because I like the sexual trauma.
Yeah. So for me, the biggest thing is I very heavily dissociated during my trauma. That was my previous coping mechanism. That was what I primarily used to get through this. So it looks like I don't actually have a lot of physical memories. I have what I would call a snapshot memory, and there's a handful of them. There's not a ton of this time. And so what that means is there actually wasn't an emotional encoding during that time, because I was checked out, so their emotions were not getting encoded. I worked with my therapist and I was like, do I need to try to uncover those emotions? She's like, you might not even have the actual emotions from that time because you were dissociated. But what I do experience is, even though I wasn't processing and feeling emotions, my body was feeling things. And my biggest symptom that I still experience to this day, I haven't been able to fully get rid of, is I can't breathe very often. And that was probably the most traumatic part, was when my captor put me back in the container. He put the ball gag in my mouth and he put the lid on the container. And I actually had an anxiety attack at that time. And in my head was, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And so my body still remembers that. And I can't take a deep breath to this day. I will notice, like, when I get stressed, like, I kind of lean in, I protect it, and I take very shallow breaths. And so I have to work to kind of open this up and take deep breaths. And I did EMDR around that, and it helped, but it still just kind of lingers. But a lot of people would be surprised to hear, after something so traumatic, oh, you just can't breathe. Oh, you just don't feel any emotions and you can't breathe. So those things, and there's a cat outside. So those symptoms, I guess, and those symptoms and the lack of knowledge around what it can look like to actually, quote, be impacted by your trauma, meant that for 15 years, I was like, I'm fine. I'm not impacted by my trauma. And I just kept telling myself that, until I realized, after the birth of my second child, I most probably had postpartum depression. And I recognized that I was apathetic. I had no feelings. And the only feeling that I felt with any sort of regularity was rage. It's just,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, I was just really pissed off all the time, and felt like I was drowning. And I was like, this doesn't feel normal. And so I realized that when I was stressed, which I was at the time, my husband's working out of the country. He was gone 2/3 of the year working. And I had two little kids, 2.5 and a newborn. And
I
I
can't imagine.
it was a tough time. And I realized that I wasn't feeling anything. And
Yeah.
and that it was actually a conscious thing that I was doing, because I had built this narrative in my mind that I'm fine, I'm not impacted, I'm strong. And so when feelings of overwhelm, or even, you're watching a commercial and it hits you in the feels and you feel the tears start coming, I'm like, nope, stop, 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 because I'm strong. I don't cry. And so I recognized that I was consciously doing that. And I began to just kind of like dismantle that. I would be like, okay, but you can feel things. It doesn't mean that you're not strong. So, um, as in terms of like, where are we on the healing journey? It's never really over,
Mhm.
right? Like, we're constantly peeling back layers of our onion. But I think I can. Why does the cat have to stay? Like, trying to keep it where it doesn't have to edit as much out. But in
Oh,
terms,
it's so the mom life, though. We're ready for anything at any
I
time.
know. That's what I told my husband. He doesn't understand like this world, and I'm like, well, here's the thing. Like, if the baby like throws herself on the ground and starts screaming bloody murder, I can just be like, and then pick it back up. But if we're talking about, where am I on this healing journey in terms of like unhealed to healed, I would say we're doing pretty good. I would say, we're 95%, but who knows what we're going to unpeel tomorrow. We might find a new moldy layer
Yeah.
of the onion and wow, didn't know that was there.
We'll be right back after this break. That's one question, concern I have for you is, as your kids get older
Mhm.
and they start, they may be somewhat of a trigger for you in the sense that you're seeing them get to the age of when this happened to you.
Ugh.
And like what I love is that you have this power and this support and this groundedness. And so like you're prepared
Yeah.
for the triggers, which means that then you are resilient and you get through them easier, faster, better, more, complete.
Yeah. Yeah. I hadn't really thought about, moving forward, especially I feel like my daughter, I have two sons and then I have a daughter. She's the baby.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, I feel like just by her being born,
Yeah.
literally just her existing has healed so many things in me that I didn't even know were broken, which is very often I I imagine this is very common with people who dissociate, that very often there are things inside of me that I don't recognize or even hurt until they heal. And
Mm.
her being born, her simply existing, she just like she could turn into the worst child ever. I don't think she will. But like, just simply existing has changed who I am, changed how I approach myself, how I approach even my boys, how I approach other people, and has healed a lot in me that I really just didn't even realize was broken. It's like in real time reparenting myself by parenting a tiny version.
Isn't that incredible?
It is.
Yeah,
It's so interesting
um
that it's happening with her as opposed to the boys. I didn't experience that with them. It's very
yeah.
different.
Have you heard of shadow work?
I have. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like, again, it's like, is it autism or is it dissociation? I don't know. Every time I've tried to like look at the shadow work stuff, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm feeling. Like, name your emotion. I'm like, I don't know. Like,
Well, see, I can't do it either, right? But what I can do, I know I'm the psychologist who
right.
struggles to have empathy. Anyways, but what I can do is I can picture myself at any age, and as my adult self, I can go back and just give her a hug, give her what she needed. And that to me, those are like these moments of strengthening. But what I love about you is you have your daughter to do that with. And, like you could be emailing her, you're not old enough right now to read this, but this is the lesson I want you to know.
I'm gonna feel feels. Yeah,
What about that?
it's just, I don't, I think I'm realizing the more I heal that I'm actually a highly feeling person. I feel a lot of things, and I think it was just not safe to feel. And so
Yeah.
everything makes me feel feels now. I'm like, ugh, can we not? But yeah, I saw something the other day, and it was talking about very often as women who have any sort of trauma, a sign of like our healing can be how we start to love pink again. And I didn't even think of that because before she was born, you're never gonna catch me, like, with a pink pen, with a pink anything. My phone case is pink currently, and so I'm, like, gravitating towards pink a lot, and it was, like, this reclaiming of our femininity that can happen a lot of the time as we heal, and I had never seen anything like that on the internet, and I just thought, "I like that." I like thinking about it that way. This idea of, like, getting your pink back, especially after you have kids, it's just, like, a slightly different take on it, and I was like, "Okay, I can accept that that's why I like pink now because 'cause I'm, like, a blue person."
So you're going to repaint your kitchen?
I don't think I'll do that. I'm still like a turquoise, a teal, a blue girl, but also, I purposely picked out the pink phone case and I pick out some like really cute girly stuff for my daughter. And it's like, oh, is this who I would have been? Like,
Mm,
are these parts of me that are being uncovered as I'm healing more? And it's just, I think it's kind of fun.
yeah.
Maybe that's just me getting older too. Like, it's kind of fun to figure out who we are as we get older.
So, I mean, I love that. I love this topic of, our kids can teach us.
Mm.
Our kids are, without even trying, they're making us grow the fuck
Yes.
up. But
Like,
how do
I
you?
I think every parent can understand when you say, like, "I didn't get the kids that I wanted. I got the kids that I needed." Because every single one of my children has leveled me up in some way that I didn't wanna be leveled up in. And, yeah, I mean, from my first, he is probably like me. He feels so intensely. And I am so fiercely protective over that for him. And especially because he's a boy, right? Like, how often do people tell boys, like, you can't cry? And then we have all these, men that don't have feelings in our
Yeah.
society. And so I'm fiercely protective over that for him. And then, like, my second is very, like, touchy, feely, huggy. And I am not. I'm like, please don't touch me. And then he has kind of like changed that, and he also was very much like the impetus of my healing journey even beginning. And then, my daughter, I've already said, she's like just existing is healing like baby me. And it's, yeah, I think it's a fine line to walk between raising our children and allowing them to heal parts of us, but if we're intentional, we can do it with grace. And I think it's so helpful for them to see that too. Like, for kids to see us try to regulate our emotions, to work through
Mhm.
healing, for us to like go through conflict and then have resolution on the other side. I think all of that is so important and makes them understand, like, life is not going to be easy for you. You're going to go through difficult things, and this is how we navigate them, and know that I'm a safe place for those things.
Definitely. I love how you put that. Yeah. We are modeling how to be human
Right.
to
I
these little people who aren't quite there yet.
Right. There's so many times that I think, like, I hold my kids to these really high standards, and I kind of have to check myself sometimes and be like, they're still little. Like, how why do I expect things out of them that adults don't know how to do? Like, I expect them to regulate their emotions and not have meltdowns. How many grown ass men do I know that have a full on meltdown when they tell me I'm fat on the internet and I'm like, "You're fat." Like, You know what I mean? There are so many grown adults who can't manage their emotions, and yet we expect it of our children. I'm like, come on.
Right.
I just need to check myself. Like, what is it triggering in me? I see them having these feelings, and I'm like, no, no, you can't have those feelings because I'm not allowed to have those feelings. I wasn't allowed to do those things. And so it's like triggering something in me. And it's constantly learning. Like when I feel
Yeah.
the rage of 1,000 suns because of one little thing that they've done, I'm like, ooh, what did
Yeah.
that touch in me? And
So how do you go about parenting? How vigilant are you? How paranoid are you?
oh, you know,
And you have the addition of your career,
right?
right? Where you and I both are probably a little over the top, but also it's not going to be our kids. So,
Right? I know. I think that I probably would have been one of those parents that was like, "Oh, that stuff happens, but it doesn't happen to me. It doesn't happen to my kids if this has not happened." So, but I also kind of raise like slightly free range kids. They're like borderline feral. Because I encourage them to make choices and
mm,
exercise their freedom. Now, obviously not for the baby. She didn't have any reasoning capabilities. But for my boys, I allow them as much freedom and flexibility as we can, because if they are going to make a mistake, if they are going to fall, if they are going to get hurt, which they are in their life, right? Like, let's face it, our kids are
yeah.
going to fail, they're going to get hurt, something bad's going to happen to them. Like,
I can't handle it. I will die. Okay.
that's what I think all the time. So, but the reality is, do you know anyone who has gotten through their life without something difficult happening? No, you don't. Everybody has difficult things. So I try to keep that in mind and recognize that, as I'm sure you know, the space between something difficult or something traumatic happening and having, quote, trauma,
Mm,
that space is closed by your ability to cope with the difficult things that happen. So my kids are going to have difficult things that happen. And so my job as a mom is to give them coping mechanisms, to give them support, and allow them to fall and mess up while they're here in my home, and I can give them those tools. And now, does that mean I'm careless and it's like a free for all and they run the roost? Hell no. Like, that is not what's happening here. We have protections, and, like, my kids don't play Roblox, or they have, parental controls. We do the Gab watches because they want to go play in the woods. They want to ride their scooters around. They want to do all of these things. And I think that kids need that stuff, especially at a certain age. Like, we're
yeah.
8 and 11, like, go ride around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
See you when the lights come on. I don't care.
But
But
it sounds like you've also instilled in them this empowerment to protect themselves.
I hope so. And I have I actually have a funny story to tell you that I always kind of question, I think we all do, like, what would happen, if someone tried to take my kid, right? Like, I don't think I don't think that that's the big threat when we talk about like kids being hurt nowadays, but it still can happen, right? And so the place where we lived where we live now, it was 45 acres, several families that lived in this general area. All the kids, there's a little pack of kids that run around, bunch of boys. They called themselves the Wolf Pack, and they played like, there was this big sand pile that they played in, and it was right beside where I worked out. And so I worked out in like a shop, had a gym in there, and I was working out, kind of had, my headphones one ear off, and the kids were out there playing, and then that intuition kind of picked up something's going on, and I walked out and looked over at them, and what my intuition had picked up is I didn't hear them playing anymore, and
Mm,
walked out, and there was a like SUV parked in between the kids and me. And this is like, no one comes back here, right? Like, you don't belong here. What are you doing here? And So, of course I walked up, there's a man in it. I walked up, I said, "Hey, can I help you?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm trying to meet someone about something on Marketplace." And I was like, "All right, well, like he's not here right now, so I'll let him know that you're here, whatever." And so that all gets settled. Guy goes off. The boys all came to me after this. So my boys and the other boys, and they said, "Miss Kara," so one of the other little boys, "Miss Kara, do you know what we did?" And I was like, "No, what did you do?" And he was like, so my son, he was like, I don't say his name, so I don't know how to tell the story with that. So they said that,
Son.
yeah. So they said, my son saw this person come up and he was like, "That's a stranger." And he was like, "Everyone get your pointy sticks." And so there was literally a pack of little boys with pointy sticks, like Lord of the Flies, standing there with their, like, there's like 6 of them with sharpened sticks staring this guy down. Like, "Stranger, defend the pack." Well, I guess they're going to be okay. Like,
I love that. How did they learn that?
I don't know. I guess it's just my son was kind of the oldest, and so he was inherently kind of the leader of the pack, and he is so intuitive. I mean, I can't do this job in my house. Like, my kids know my story to an age appropriate level,
Yeah.
and so they're aware of the fact that I was taken by a stranger from my friend's front yard. And so I think that they kind of have a little bit of knowledge of that kind of thing. But I was like, "Oh my God," they had sharp sticks and they were like, "Nobody's taken us." Like, band together.
It's fucking amazing.
I was like, "All right, so y'all are good. Y'all are good." Like, well,
I was walking yesterday with my daughter. She's 8, and she held my hand, and because she doesn't really want to hold hands right now because, like, she's at that age where it's not cool anymore. But she held my hand and she was like, "Mom, there's a 70% chance that this guy walking towards us is homeless, and I'm not quite sure, so I'm just letting you know." And I was like, 70%? Do you even know what percentages are? Like, I do your homework on Chat GPT. I don't know.
Right. So, well, have you heard of I'm sure you've heard of the gift of fear.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And what's the kid one called?
I don't know. That's what I was going to talk about. But it helps
Protecting the gift. The original book is about you trusting your intuition and protecting yourself, right? Especially as a woman. And he really throws out some hard stats that people don't like. And it's not his area of expertise in that he went to school, but he has been a PI and he's been in these incredible situations. And so I did his training actually, like in Lake Arrowhead, California for the weekend. I loved it. But then this book where he says how to be a parent and it's okay. These are things that are okay to teach your kids, which some of the book was like a little outlandish, but some I loved. Like, one thing I loved was, what happens in an emergency when everyone's running through the front doors and they're leaving? And he says, teach your kids to go through the back exit because that's where no one else is going to go.
Yeah. Or like, he talks about things like kind of allowing your kids to profile a little bit. And it's kind of like, ugh, society doesn't really tell us that that's okay, but
fuck it.
Right? But also, I don't care. Like, that's what I tell, people online all the time when they want to know, like, how do I keep myself safe? I'm like, I don't give a shit if people think I'm nice. Like, if it comes down to, I don't like the way that person looks, I can either hurt their feelings or I can possibly make me and my children a victim. I don't give a shit about that person's feelings. I'm never going to see that person again. But if something within me is saying, I don't like that person, then, kids are born with these same intuitive powers that we often will be like, that's not politically correct to think that way or to act that way. But if something is telling them, like your daughter, like something about that guy was like feeling furtive to her, right? And if you would have been like, "Oh, honey, but he might just be down on his luck. Let's be nice to him," right? Like, which absolutely, I think there's something to be said about that. But
say it later,
right? Exactly.
Like what I tell her, like, and I've posted videos on this, and I've gotten so much hate on this, but I tell her to describe a homeless man.
Mhm.
describe a dangerous man, like describe someone hallucinating. And a lot of the time she'll say, I look at their shoes. And it's really insightful for her to gauge people by the cleanliness of their shoes.
That's
And the
what
hate I get is like, well, what if it's a construction worker? You've just taught her to like hate against the working professionals or blue collar. And I'm like, I don't care. I'll talk to her later about it. I'll be like, honey, that was kind of, you're a judgmental little bitch, but you're safe.
I like, yeah, I honestly don't care, and that's the thing that I tell people. I think we as women, and this is the biggest lesson that I got from. So I am also I know James Hamilton, who he was the VP of Gavin DeBecker and Associates, and so he worked very closely with Gavin, and I had him on my podcast, and so I've had multiple conversations with him about this, and it's like the big thing that I tell people is it doesn't matter. We as women are taught like, oh, you have to be nice. You can't hurt anybody's feelings. And he's like, screw that. He's like, hurt people's feelings. Like it doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, especially if you're not going to see that person again, like I just tell people all the time, like, listen to your intuition. Like if something is saying making you feel uneasy, that means that your survival mechanism that is within your head, within your not even just your head, it's within your whole nervous system, your whole body
Yeah.
is picking up on something that you might not. And one of the things that James said is he was like, people like to say, oh, my dog didn't like someone, my dog. And it's like, no, your dog is picking up on your cues that you aren't even recognizing. Like your dog is smelling your fear. He's picking up on how your body behavior, like your body language is changing, how your behavior is changing, and he is responding to that. And I was like, yeah, like that's
It's incredible.
yeah, it's so amazing. So that's the biggest thing when people are like, "How do you keep yourself safe?" I'm like, "Listen to your freaking intuition. Don't walk down the street with your headphones on, looking at your phone. Like stand up, hold yourself up straight, make eye
Yeah.
contact with people. Don't make yourself an easy victim because
Right.
generally someone is going to pick someone as a victim who looks easy. Like if you look scrappy, you look like you're going to fight somebody, they're probably not going to pick you unless they're just like full on sociopath. But most people are not going to pick the person that's going to remember their face, that's going to fight, that's paying attention. They want a victim of opportunity.
Right. Exactly. Like, let's get it done and get it over with.
Hell yeah.
I love that. And I think, even my son's 4 now. I teach him to scream. Like we just practice screaming.
I love it.
And I ask him when, like Gavin DeBecker would say, like we go for walks and I ask him like, who would you go to for help? And then we sit down and we talk about why. Why'd you pick that person?
You're doing such
And then we practice it too. Like go up to this person and ask if you can borrow a pencil. And then he picks the person and in his little it's like, practice from age, from words, right? But even before
Mhm.
that, they're
Yeah.
watching you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's incredible. And it's time for a break.
We do this little game sometimes when we're waiting. I am very aware of trying to teach my kids also, like, one of the things that a lot of us are not good about, which is like the ability to just wait somewhere without being on your device, being distracted. And so one of the things that we do that I more or less picked up from conversations with James is we'll be in a room. So the most recent time is we were at the vet. We're, in the little waiting room with the cat. And I'm like, okay, look around the room. All right, close your eyes, and I'm going to ask you a question about the room. And so it just teaches them to notice things. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
how many windows are in the room? Okay, there's, a bookcase over here. How many shelves are on it? Just different little things. And it teaches them to just be more aware of their surroundings. And, and it's just, it's constant work. But if we're not learning these things ourselves, like if we're not paying attention to
Yeah.
our surroundings, then how are we teaching our kids to do that? So I think that people need to recognize that when it comes to keeping our kids safe, that's something we can do in terms of stranger danger. Now, the more real fear, I think, often is people that are close to you. It's usually like a known acquaintance that's going to harm
Mm.
children, unfortunately. And so that comes into like making me a safe space. So I can do everything that I can to make my kids safe, but and I'm not going to be reckless. But still sometimes stuff can happen. It could be another kid, right? Like they could be at a play
Yeah.
date playing with another kid. And then teaching, proper anatomical terms, teaching that they can say no
Mhm.
about their body. Like one of my kids, I can't make him wear underwear. And it's like, you need to understand that if you're wearing shorts during the summer, if you sit a certain way, somebody's going to see your stuff. Like, and you're going to have to wash your shorts a lot more. But listen, if that's what your body feels good with, practice saying no. Like, practice saying no about your body. And then things
But
like,
what
things like,
what you did though with talking to them about, looking into memorizing the room and the areas of the room. I mean, that's what you did to save your own life.
right? How weird.
I mean, but
I know. I didn't really think of that connection, but yeah.
I mean, that was somehow that became you at 15.
Right.
That's incredible.
I know. And then where does that come from? I think
That's why I'm saying you have an amazing brain, and I want to analyze it.
do it. I want to know all the things.
But no, I mean, talk to me a bit about your profession now, because I think you are just such a perfect fit for what you've chosen for life. Tell the world, like, where can they find you? Where can they like love you?
Social media. I am an unwilling. I am a captive of social media. I'm unwillingly being held captive by social media. No, most days I'm okay. Some days I don't like being there. So I'm everywhere on social media. Kara Robinson Chamberlain. My website is KaraRobinsonChamberlain.com. I do keynotes. I do a lot of advocacy work via social media, just kind of like spreading knowledge and awareness and talking about the different dynamics of what it means to be a victim of a crime and then moving forward and share my experiences working in law enforcement. That's a lot of what I do in keynotes as well, is how do we support people? Because I had a variety of experiences where people treated me like a victim as opposed to a survivor. I had a lot of different perspectives of what that looks like. And really, it's kind of simple, like how you do that. And so that's kind of like my day to day. I'm always working on things, projects and workbooks and books and TV shows. And I'm always spinning some plates in the background.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. So it's your story is incredible, and where you've taken it is incredible. I think so. I have a question for you, and it's actually based on a video that I saw on social media yesterday, where a professor asks a huge class, maybe like 150 students, if you or someone has been sexually assaulted, stand up, and the whole class stood up.
Mm-hmm.
And they look like undergrads, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then the professor asked if if you or that person reported it, stay standing.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone sat down.
Isn't that heavy?
It was very heavy, and I wasn't expecting it. But of course, my algorithm is fucked because of it's all this content.
Yeah.
I'm sure yours is too. But but what is your message for someone who is either going to go to a friend who is sexually assaulted or someone who was sexually assaulted? How can we be there for them?
That's such a great question. And I think the very, very first thing that we do is we believe them. That's it. You don't need to know why. You don't need to know, I think one of the things we often do by nature as humans is we want to try to understand why someone would victimize someone else. And so we might want to ask questions to try to help us understand how someone could be a perpetrator. But you don't need to ask the victim that. You don't need to ask those questions because it feels like you are blaming them very often. Mm. So you just need to show up and you need to start by believing. So you just need, one of my pet peeves is when people say, I'm so sorry that happened. Because I feel like I am then put in the place that I need to reassure that person. No, I'm fine. It's fine. I'm fine. So I almost prefer, thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you for feeling safe enough to share that with me. It really sucks. That sucks. And then I think having ways that you can offer to help them, not let me know how I can help you. Let me know when I can help you. It's, can I buy you some groceries? Can I bring you a meal? Can I help you fill out your victim services forms? Can I be with you through the court process? Can I help you, with your statement? Just very tangible things. And this is kind of applicable for anyone who's going through anything difficult, honestly. It's just showing up, being there, and really kind of listening to what they're saying and sometimes what they're not saying they need. Because so many people are like, Kara, you have to get therapy. You have to get therapy. And it's something my mother carries guilt about, that she didn't make me go to therapy. And I said, no, you did the absolute right thing. Now, in 2002, there wasn't a handbook that said, when your child is a victim of sexual assault, here's what you do. Now there probably are a million of them. But she listened to me. I said, I don't want to do therapy. Had she forced me, it would have been a very different situation. It wouldn't have been effective. But she listened to what I was saying I needed in that moment. And I was like, I just need everyone to treat me normal again. I don't want everybody walking on eggshells around me. And so I think it's believe them, be there, be consistently there. When you say you're going to be there, be there. Don't make promises you can't keep. And just do the tangible things. Just offer to do something and then just do it. I think those are the biggest things. And then I guess if you're someone who actually is walking through that, just recognize that healing is not a straightforward journey. And you're going to get through it. You can get through it. You've already done the hardest part. You've gotten through the actual situation. And it wasn't your fault. The thing that happened, it wasn't your fault. But the healing is your responsibility. No one's coming to save you. No one's going to heal you. Even if you go to therapy, the therapist is the counselor, the psychiatrist, the psychologist. They're just going to give you the tools to heal yourself. So understand, it's not fair. It absolutely is not fair. But you're responsible to heal yourself, and you're capable of it.
Show up for yourself because you can.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not easy, but like, life is not easy. Like, I wish it was, but also, like, if you're eating ice cream all the time, eventually you're going to be like, I might need a steak, right? Like, you kind of have to have like the good and the bad, because you can't appreciate the good if you don't have difficult times. Then you can't appreciate it as much. And, the difficult things are what cause us to grow and become stronger. And so just recognize that you might one day find purpose in your pain.
I love that. That needs to be the t-shirt you sell.
Right? I know.
Purpose in pain.
I have so many.
Trademark it.
I know, right? Well, I historically have kind of taglined everything not defined. And that's the working title of a book if I have it. Because it's like, especially social media wants to pigeonhole you. Like, are you that girl that got kidnapped? I'm like, that was like 22, 23 years ago. Like, can we talk about something else? Like,
yeah,
I'm a lot more than that. Like, I'm not defined by someone else's actions. I would like to be defined by what I've done after that.
Yeah. And I think that this hour shows exactly that in so many ways.
Yeah.
Incredible mother, survivor, advocate, teacher, leader.
Just doing my best.
I mean, and even like just the cats are trying to get to you while you're...
Someone's always trying to get to me. Everyone needs me all the time. So many needy creatures. They don't want to touch me.
Exactly, right?
Did we say that? Did we say I don't like being touched?
No, we don't follow Mel Robbins' theory of let them. We don't let them just touch us.
Oh, God. I need some body autonomy. Everyone's trying to like stick their hands in my armpits and my mouth and like, ew.
Yep. Yep.
Why do you all need to be inside? I say they all want to like inhale my exhales. I'm like, can we do some space?
Right? What does a mom want for Mother's Day? Like,
just to be left the heck alone for a little while.
for no one to touch her who has ever been inside her.
Right.
And that counts for the husband too.
Although I was like, last year for Mother's Day, everyone's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to go to brunch and then I want to go to the trampoline park. I was like, I feel like the one place that will not be crowded on Mother's Day is probably the trampoline park because everyone's like afraid they're going to pee on themselves. I'm like, I'm good in that department. I just want to jump. I just want to have fun. So, I want to not be touched. I want yummy food and coffee and to jump on a trampoline. My needs are minimal.
Good. I'm really grateful you took the time to do this and to talk to me.
Yeah, of course. It's been fun.
But thank you.
Of course. It's been great.
Thank you for watching another episode of Intentionally Disturbing. That was Kara. I think she is absolutely incredible. I love that today she bought a t-shirt that said "Too Fat to Kidnap." She has an incredibly dark sense of humor too that we didn't get to fully see. But her experience is incredible. And what she can teach you, I think you need to listen. And I'm so happy that she has social media platforms and that she is available for keynote speaking. She can empower you as a woman, as a man, and help you as a parent. And so I'm just really, really happy that you got a chance to watch that episode and hear us go back and forth about, living our lives in 2025. See you next time on Intentionally Disturbing.